Talk politics. Talk 1470 and 95.3 FM. WNN.
If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, tune in to the Dr. Bob Martin Show. From erectile dysfunction to eczema, heartburn to headaches, carpal tunnel to how to lower cholesterol drug-free. Sunday mornings at 10 on Talk 1470 WNN.
Times are tough, and right now those in the commercial world know that being heard via advertisements is the name of the game. AmpSquare.tv understands how important advertisement is and is proud to express that it's truly the only plugged-in internet television production company on the market. Amp2.tv live streams all their shows across all the major selling markets in the U.S. and abroad. Call them at 866-224-5422. The AmpSquare.tv library allows productions to be seen over and over again, making commercial platforms more usable. Call 866-224-5422. Toll free 866-224-5422. Amp2.tv, the first and only internet television network that's truly plugged in. 866-224-5422. That's AMP2.TV. Times are tough, and right now those in the commercial world know that being heard via advertisements is the name of the game. AmpSquare.tv understands how important advertising
Healthcare Inc. is locally owned and operated, serving the Tri-County area, Palm Beach, Dade, and Broward counties for the last 25 years. The practice of medicine is changing dramatically. All County Healthcare, Inc. still does it the old-fashioned way, where our nurses and healthcare professionals come into your home to service your medical needs, providing you the fastest and best care possible. For more information, call 954-717-7027. And remember, Medicare Home Care is covered by Part A of Medicare with no out-of-pocket cost to you. It's your decision, and only your decision, on what healthcare agency you use. Call today. All County Home Health Care, Inc. at 954-717-7027. License 200999096.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Amp2.tv presents You and Your Doctor, teaching you to live a longer and healthier life. Proudly sponsored by All County Healthcare, where people are the heart of our business. All County Healthcare is a Medicare certified agency where one call will service all your home care health needs. For more information, call 954-717-7027 or visit our website, allcountyhealthcare.com. Now, let's get informed to living a longer and healthier life. Here is your host for today's show.
What's the channel again?
Hello, South Florida and beyond, and welcome to the You and Your Doctor Show. We're on 95.3 FM and 1470 AM. If you're driving around South Florida, be careful in that traffic. It was a crazy drive in. I'm happy to be here on time, and I've got a great guest in the studio for you today who made a long drive from northern Palm Beach County to visit us. But once again, You and Your Doctor Show, we're on every Tuesday, 6 to 7 p.m., right here on WWNN Radio. You can get the app at wwnnradio.com. Facebook Live, All County Healthcare's Facebook Live page as well. Tonight at 6 p.m. For the first slot, we're going to have Dr. Arif Dalvi. He's a neurologist, director of the Comprehensive Movement Disorders Center at Palm Beach Neuroscience Institute. He's also on staff at St. Mary's Medical Center, Delray Medical Center, and Good Samaritan Medical Center. Wow, 3 hospitals. That must be an insane schedule. And then at 6:30 p.m., Dr. Nick Carr. He's a financial caregiver. He's got a great site, flmoneymap.com, and he's going to be joining us as well. But before we get started bringing you all this great health information, I just want to let you know, big thank you to All County Healthcare Incorporated for sponsoring the program. Right there, I got my nice folder for the viewers across the internet TV. All County Healthcare Incorporated, where patients are the heart of our business, a Medicare certified agency. If you have any questions about home health care or the services provided, they provide care in Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade counties. Their number is 954-717-7027. You can ask for Maddie, and she'll help you with any questions you have. She's really helpful gal. So they're also allcountyhealthcare.com. And like I said, on Facebook Live, which I always do right now as I'm doing the show, I share it on my Facebook page because Dr. Dalvi, we were talking on the way in. I mean, Facebook's amazing with the Facebook Live. It's just out there immediately and people are commenting as we're talking. It's amazing. So thank you again for making the drive. You're up in northern Palm Beach County. You have a new office in Boynton Beach. You're a neurologist at the Canyons Town Center, but your main specialty, while you treat all neurologic disorders, your main specialty, we've learned because we've had you on the program, this is the third time we've had you on, I think, is Parkinson's disease,
Right.
which seems to be on the rise with baby boomers.
I think that certainly is part of the explanation. As we hit that, the age of onset of Parkinson's disease is 55 to 65 typically, although I have somebody I diagnosed who's 30 years old recently.
Oh, wow.
But in general, 55 to 65 is age of onset. And since we have that population that is reaching that age, we see more and more Parkinson's. So it's not unusual. Almost, any family, if you ask them, they will know somebody with Parkinson's disease or will know of somebody with Parkinson's disease.
It seems like maybe just as I'm getting older, but I'm learning more about these diseases as I'm getting older. They seem to be a little bit more prevalent than since I was younger. So I'm hoping that's not on the rise. But maybe you can share with us a little of your insight. And are there environmental factors that can lead to Parkinson's disease?
Certainly. I think people have looked at initially Parkinson's as being mainly environmental because exposure to certain pesticides, for example, is high risk for Parkinson's. Exposure to certain industries, mining, for example, is high risk for Parkinson's. Another very important one is head injuries. So, for example, we see people who are football players, athletes who are boxers, for example, they're at high risk for Parkinson's disease. Having said that, more and more there's interest in genetic causes of Parkinson's disease. In fact, through the Advanced Neuroscience Network, we had a very large neurology symposium. And one of my mentors from Columbia University, Susan Bressman, she spoke on the incidence of Parkinson's in the Ashkenazi Jewish population, and she's identified a mutation called the LRRK2 mutation, leucine-rich repeat kinase type 2. You're supposed to say that 3 times quickly.
I will never be able to say that one time quickly.
If you have that mutation and you are of Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry, 1 chance in 3 that you will have Parkinson's disease. So it's that high of a risk in that community.
Wow, I didn't know about that. I remember the BRCA gene we've heard a lot about with breast cancer, and
right.
that's tied a little bit to the Jewish population as well. But yeah, I didn't know that. Wow, that must have been a fascinating talk. I know I've attended in the past the neurology symposium that the Advanced Neuroscience Network puts on, and I think she spoke previously, right? A couple times?
No, this was her first.
Her first time. I'm thinking
of
another
kind enough
great
to accept
doctor.
my invitation, but she had a wonderful presentation on these genetic causes. So when you look at the question you had asked, what is the cause? One way of putting it is that the genes load the gun and the environment pulls the trigger. So when you have the combination, that's when you get Parkinson's.
Okay, so you could have it in you, but the environment can actually trigger
Correct.
it. Wow. And just let me go back a second. So Dr. Bressman, she's from Columbia?
She used to be my mentor at Columbia University. Now she's chair at one of the Mount Sinai institutions.
Okay, and you studied at Columbia University,
did.
correct? New York City?
Correct.
Wow, that's a prestigious institution. That is fantastic. It really is. And I know you also studied at University of Cincinnati.
That is right.
As well. So that's great as well. And fellowship program, what am I missing right here? I got it right here on you.
So my residency in neurology was at the University of Cincinnati, and
That's
the
right.
fellowship was at Columbia. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. And not only Parkinson's disease, but you also treat other movement disorders, tremor,
Correct.
Tourette syndrome,
Yes.
which we've heard about a lot.
Yes.
And that can be something that can kind of attack a younger population as well.
Tremor, when you think of tremor, you think of Parkinson's, but essential tremor is 10 times more common in the community than Parkinson's, and we see that and treat that also. The good news for both these kind of tremor disorders, whether it's Parkinson's or essential tremor, is in addition to medications, if some patients stop responding to medications, we also can treat them surgically with deep brain stimulation. And that's what I've been busy with over the last 3 years. We've built the fastest growing DBS program in Florida. We are now one of the largest in terms of output of DBS surgeries and ahead of many academic programs in the area.
Wow. And take us through DBS, because I know I can explain it a little bit, and I'll start, and then you can fix me here.
Sure.
So it's for tremor, like a shake that we see in the arm, or I guess other parts of the body as well, or mostly the arm?
Mostly in the arm, because that is what affects your quality of life. But we also use it for people with Parkinson's who have on-off fluctuations. They may not even have any tremor, but their medication only works so many hours and then wears off kicks in and wears off. That's called on-off fluctuation. So DBS surgery can be very helpful for those patients as well. Or patients with dyskinesias. If you have ever seen Michael J. Fox, he has the writhing, jerking movement. That's a dyskinesia. Yeah. So DBS surgery can be very helpful for that as well.
I think we always think of Michael J. Fox, and he's done some great awareness work. He is amazing.
Really raised the awareness of Parkinson's and raised funding for research like very few people have.
Good for him. I mean, I love that guy. I love watching him. He's awesome. Dr. Dalvi, so you start by working with the patient to map the brain before the surgery even happens. It's called brain mapping?
Correct. So the DBS surgery is a two-part procedure. So the lay press calls it a pacemaker for the brain, which I think is a reasonable description, because what is a pacemaker for the heart? There's an abnormal electrical signaling in the heart, and you put a wire in the heart connected to a pacemaker that sits in underneath your collarbone, and that makes the heart rhythm normal.
Okay.
Now, in the brain, there are abnormal rhythms that actually cause the tremor. And what we do is we put the electrode in just the right place where those abnormal rhythms are, and we connect it exactly to the same kind of pacemaker that the cardiologists use, and we're able to control those rhythms. So we're able to control tremor, we're able to control on-off fluctuations, dyskinesias. So I like the term a pacemaker for the brain. Now, incidentally, there are growing indications for deep brain stimulation surgery. As of now, they're experimental, but there's been interest in use of deep brain stimulation for epilepsy, for use in certain psychiatric disorders, obsessive compulsive disorder, Tourette syndrome, depression, even obesity. There have been small studies looking at it for people who have failed gastric bypass and the like. So it's a very interesting field. And the technology keeps improving. In fact, we are one of the first in Florida. We are using a new electrode because you have to be very precise with deep brain stimulation. You know, like they say about real estate, location. Yeah. But the new electrode allows us to have a slight error, a millimeter or two here or there. With the old technique, it would give rise to side effects and not good control. But the new electrodes are called directional electrodes. So even though we're very precise in placing the electrode, it gives us even more accuracy as to where the current is targeted and how we control these abnormal signals in the brain. So technology keeps improving.
So you're already doing a complex procedure, and then technology's even helping you to even pinpoint it even more.
Right.
And I know, because you've been nice enough to come on this program at least 3 times. You may be my longest running guest there, the top. I was just watching Meet the Press this weekend. They did their 70th year, and they had the list of all the people who've been on the most. You know, Tom Brokaw on this one and that one. And I'm thinking, like, Dr. Dalvi, Dr. Bethay, I mean, you guys got to be in the lead. Mueller, I think Dr. Mueller we've had on.
Right.
He likes doing radio. I got to get him on NPR. He keeps on. I'm going to do that, though. Dr. Mueller will get you on NPR. So let me just go back there. So it may be done for diet in the future, overeating.
In the future. Right now, it's very experimental. We are not offering that over here as of now, but certainly.
But that's on the horizon,
maybe. Right.
Maybe for neurologists working with a bariatric surgeon or a weight loss surgeon to get to help the patient out. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about you do in the office Botox for dystonia, spasticity, and migraines. We've heard a lot about that the last few years.
So if, I suffer from migraines myself, and when a bad one hits, it's extremely disabling. So you get photophobia, where you see flashes of light, you get nausea, you have to lie down in a quiet place. What Botox does is, if you have more than 15 severe migraine headaches in a month, when you inject Botox according to a certain technique, it's very different from the wrinkles that are corrected with Botox. But if you do that correctly, then the headache frequency is reduced dramatically. So it can be very helpful in terms of reducing the severity and frequency of the headaches.
And that's done right in the office.
And that's done right in the office. No special preparation or anesthesia required. And once it kicks in, it's good for about 3 months in a row.
Fantastic. And that's Palm Beach Neuroscience Institute, PBNI.com. The easiest website, and I've flubbed it 3 times. 561-882-6214. We're going to take a quick break, and on the other side, I'm going to tell you how you can go see Dr. Dalvi speak at the American Parkinson's Disease Association South Florida chapter coming up in Deerfield Beach. So stay tuned on You and Your Doctor.
All County Healthcare, Inc. is locally owned and operated, serving the Tri-County area, Palm Beach, Dade, and Broward counties for the last 25 years. The practice of medicine is changing dramatically. All County Healthcare, Inc. still does it the old-fashioned way, where our nurses and healthcare professionals come into your home to service your medical needs, providing you the fastest and best care possible. For more information, call 954-717-7027. And remember, Medicare Home Care is covered by Part A of Medicare with no out-of-pocket cost to you. It's your decision, and only your decision, on what healthcare agency you use. Call today. All County Home Health Care, Inc. at 954-717-7027. License 200999096.
Getting older is not for sissies. That's what one of my patients says. And it's funny, but it's true. Live long enough and you'll get arthritis, skin cancer, probably one of the common chronic diseases like CHF, COPD, diabetes. At All County Healthcare, we teach you how to manage your disease. We make sure you know how to take your medications and how to recognize signs and symptoms before requiring hospitalization, no matter how many visits it takes. You didn't move to Florida to be sick. You moved here to enjoy the rest of your life. And that's exactly what our team of nurses, therapists, and aides at All County Healthcare help you do.
You are listening to You and Your Doctor, Living Longer and Healthier, an informative show that helps you find answers to questions you always wanted to ask, but did not have that somebody that could make a difference in your life. Call into the show if you have a question at 888-565-1470, and we will put you on the air to inform all our listeners. Now, back to our show.
Welcome back on the You and Your Doctor show. We got about 15 minutes left with Dr. Arif Dalvi, Neurologist, Director of Comprehensive Movement Disorders Center at Palm Beach Neuroscience Institute. If you have a quick question, 1-888-565-1470. Dr. Dalvi, I want to share with this great event that we teased going into the commercial there. So it's the American Parkinson's Disease Association South Florida chapter. They're having a symposium right around the corner. Believe it or not, January is right around the corner. January 20th over in Deerfield Beach is the location. So that's going to be at... Actually, they're out of Deerfield Beach. I'm sorry. This is at the Boca Raton Marriott.
Yes.
Right here in Boca.
Right.
How could I flub that? Okay. So that's no problem. We're going to have information for you if you have any questions, or apdaparkinsons.org. I'll give that out again. So, again, you're doing another symposium. This one's obviously going to be focused on Parkinson's disease, and you're bringing in a keynote speaker, Dr. Corinne Lasmazas, from the Scripps Research Institute of Florida. I'm familiar with Scripps because I'm from Jupiter originally, and that place is just awesome.
Yes, they do phenomenal basic science research. And, this is this symposium that we do for the American Parkinson's Disease Association. I'm their medical director. This is now the third year that we're doing it, and it's usually been very well attended, and we bring in speakers to talk about all aspects of Parkinson's disease. Our keynote speaker is going to talk about basic science. How these abnormal proteins, we mentioned LRRK2, it creates abnormalities in proteins and protein signaling. And this then leads to signs and symptoms of Parkinson's disease. So the more we understand the basic science, the better we are at developing new therapies for the disease. So I think that's going to be a very interesting talk. Dr. Lloyd Zucker, who's my collaborator in neurosurgery, he's going to be speaking on deep brain stimulation. And I'm actually going to really dig into our research in terms of medical treatments, new techniques of delivering levodopa, new upcoming treatments in the form, for example, of intranasal levodopa and the like. So we're going to cover the whole range of what's being offered in clinical research and let patients know about it.
Now, levodopa, you mentioned a few times, is a drug that helps Parkinson's disease, but some of the time it's actually implanted under the patient's skin where it gives like low doses over a certain period of time.
What we are doing, that's one of the new techniques we are offering now through Delray Medical Center, that we are able to, the trouble with levodopa by mouth is that its half-life, meaning 50% is gone from your blood, is just 1 hour. So that's why in the early stages when the brain still has a lot of dopamine producing cells, you're fine with taking 2 or 3 doses a day, maybe 4 doses a day. But once you've had Parkinson's for 5 years, 7 years, you start to have these fluctuations. And what the Duopa device does is you basically put in something that is similar to a feeding tube, but it extends beyond the stomach into the small intestine. And then it is connected to a pump that you wear on a belt, and that gives you steady state levodopa. So these patients who, they on-off is like a light switch. So when they're on, they're walking, they're doing what they need to do, they're socializing. But when the medication wears off, they cannot get out of a chair. So it's very disabling. So Duopa helps reduce these on-off fluctuations. So that's what we're offering in addition to deep brain stimulation surgery as well.
Is that pump similar to, I know a surgeon who actually wears a diabetic pump and
it's the
is
same
able
idea.
to...
It's the same idea.
Okay.
But technology is different. The device is different. The aims are different.
But quality of life, I mean, it's something you can still get around and go to your church or go to...
Absolutely. In fact, that's the whole point, that if you are having these severe on-off fluctuations, you tend to become housebound because it's very difficult to go out because you're afraid your medication is going to wear off. But when we use the pump to stabilize the delivery, it really helps with quality of life.
Is that what's most rewarding for you as a physician, is helping people restore their quality of life? Because I know it's tough when you see some of these patients and these stories, and you have it directly in front of you all the time. But when you're able to help out maybe a person and they have a better quality of life, is that what you get out of it?
The thing is that for a long time we felt as neurologists, we gave people long names as a diagnosis, and then we said, well, there's not much we can do about it. But neurology is so different. If you have a stroke, you can do TPA. If you have, for example, epilepsy, there's video EEG monitoring can be done. My colleagues are doing that. Dr. Miller does the stroke. Dr. Malik does the stroke. Hernandez and Muniz, they do video EEG monitoring. So a lot of aggressive techniques. For my part, deep brain stimulation has been wonderful to restore quality of life for a lot of patients with Parkinson's, essential tremor, sometimes even dystonia. So it really is, even though I've been focused on this area for 20 plus years, even now when I'm in the operating room and we are testing the device and the patient is shaking like a leaf, and then we increase the current and I say 0.5 volts and then 1 volt and then 1.5 volt, and suddenly the tremor stops. Even today, it's wonderful to see that happen. So,
and you can actually search that on the internet. I believe it was CBS 12 News was the last one that did the big one at Delray Medical Center. If you search Dr. Dalvi's name, Dalvi, or Dr. Zucker's name, Zucker, it's going to come up there in the news feed, and it's just amazing. You have to see it for yourself to believe it. Because I know when you came on board here a few years ago from, was it Chicago area?
Yes, University of Chicago. I spent a lot of time there.
Wow, that is a very prestigious institution. I have a fun fact about the University of Chicago, which I already know for football season. University of Chicago used to be one of the best college football teams. However, they decided, and maybe you can elaborate, to give up on sports to concentrate on academics because they felt like at the time the football program was kind of taking over. Am I right about that a little bit?
You're absolutely right. And when they made that switch, they changed the motto of University of Chicago. So the motto was University of Chicago, where fun comes to die.
Wow.
That's how serious and academic they went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's an awesome institution. And I always talk with you about Chicago. My mom's from Chicago. A lot of listeners know.
Right.
I was actually just up at Wrigley Field last year. I saw Pearl Jam at Wrigley Field. One of the best nights of my life.
Did you watch the Cubs win finally?
I did, and my mom is so happy.
Yeah.
I have a quick story. I grew up, she took me to Wrigley Field every year growing up from when I was 10 to probably 20 years old. And I grew up, I was a Chicago White Sox fan. I loved Carlton Fisk because I was a catcher. And he was just awesome to me. And I made my mom take me to the south side of Chicago, the old Comiskey Park.
Yes.
Okay. She was not happy to sit with me. But that was before the Yankees were good. This must have been early 90s.
Right.
I have to look back at the ticket stub. But she's still mad at me this today. But I do love the Cubs. They're my they're kind of my guilty pleasure in the National League. Everyone knows I'm a Marlins fan.
My
but
friends in Chicago, they tease me and say that I was the jinx that was preventing the Cubs from winning.
Yeah, when you left, they finally
started
won.
to win, you know. So.
But what about the Bears?
That's another story.
I know your team's the
Yeah,
Bears. You
yeah.
love the Bears.
So, you know, speaking of Bears, one of the areas that we are developing is, examining the role of head injuries and chronic traumatic encephalopathy in terms of long-term predisposition to Parkinson's disease, not just Parkinson's, but also Alzheimer's disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, and the like. So that's another area that we are looking to expand.
Wow, yeah, I know ESPN has been busy ringing your phone the last 3 years.
Yes.
They always want to talk to you about concussions and what's going on. Every time there's a study that comes out about a player who's passed away, unfortunately, and they dissect that brain, there's definitely a correlation, right?
I think, you know, what I always sort of end up as a summary statement in these interviews is that you need to give the brain time to rest. So if you have an injury and you say, I'm fine, and you go back and play and you get a second injury, that's where a lot of the damage happens. So if you have an injury, you're given time off, good time to recover, you're fully tested by a neurologist who's an expert in that kind of evaluation, and then you get a clearance to go back to the sport. It's not that you have to give up on the sport of football. You just have to be smart about how these athletes are evaluated and then tested so that they can go back to play the sport safely.
They almost treat it like a broken bone. Like if you break your leg, you're not going to be back in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they need to think the same way in football or soccer and other sports for that matter.
The difficulty is a broken bone is easy to see for the coach. But the damage that happens in the brain, even with MRI, you can often miss, with routine MRI, you can miss the sort of damage that goes on.
Is it symptoms-based?
Very much so for now. There's new techniques coming up with MRI that might actually help us screen for these conditions better.
And we had Dr. Amy Jarvis on this show not too long ago. I know she did some work early on in her career. She was on the sideline for the Jacksonville Jaguars. She's down in Miami at North Shore Medical Center. But I know it is something that you want to kind of explore, maybe getting on the sideline someday. I know you're not into it right now, but maybe someday that's something that you'd like to lend your expertise to help out a little bit.
I think we enjoy these athletes so much, and they entertain us. What I want to see happen is that we treat these athletes fairly, that we evaluate them in a proper, thorough way for these degenerative diseases, screen for them early, and help them along the way. Okay,
good to hear. Yeah, I know a few football players here in South Florida have retired early. I know Channing Crowder of the Dolphins retired after 4 years. I don't really know the story. He is on the radio, so maybe we'll get him on sometime.
Sure.
But there's been a few that have just seen, that life is more important, quality of life, like we started talking about earlier. So definitely. Well, we only have a couple more minutes. Again, I want to give out the information. So happy you took the time to join us. I know you're seriously busy. You have 2 surgeries tomorrow with Dr. Zucker, 2 DBSs, right?
2 DBS surgeries, right.
Wow. And you only do those at Delray Medical Center,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
But then you do rounds at Good Samaritan Medical Center and St. Mary's.
Right. And
where
we
you
also
help
have
with
a memory disorder center at St. Mary's, right.
Where you do a lot of work there. Right. Wow. Do you ever sleep?
Sometimes.
And you have it's family and medicine right now, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
What do you do to stay in shape? I know you told me in the past you run, right?
I actually believe it or not, I have a trainer 2 days a week. So,
good.
Yeah, I do try to practice what I preach to some extent.
Most doctors do, and we try to listen to them. I hope you rub off on me because definitely getting to the point of no return here. No, we've talked about it, but no, I'm working too. So again, Dr. Dalvi is going to be at the 3rd Annual Comprehensive Approach to Parkinson's Disease Symposium. I believe you said you're going to talk about levodopa?
I'm going to talk about all of the new treatment options that are coming up.
Awesome. And don't miss Dr. Corinne Lasmazas. And sorry, doctor, if I'm pronouncing that wrong. She's from Scripps Research Institute. Huge. She's going to talk about misfolded proteins such as Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, which we didn't get in too much tonight, but everyone knows that that's pretty prevalent in other prion diseases as well. She's done some work with the WHO World Health Organization, so that's huge. So attend, it's January 20th. That's a Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. January 20th, 2018, Boca Raton Marriott, 5150 Town Center Circle, Boca Raton. Wow, right around the corner from here.
Right.
That's right in our backyard.
I think the easiest way to find their website is to type in APDA and South Florida, and that'll take you right to the sign-up page.
Exactly. That's the South Florida chapter, and we've had Denise Jordan on the program and Rebecca Hayesi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, too. She's awesome. Wow, she always sends me this info. So thank you to both of those ladies. And Dr. Dalvi, you're always welcome to come on the program. If you ever share anything with the listeners, please
thank you, David, for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
And thank you for coming on, you and your doctor. We'll be right back. On the other side, we have Dr. Nick Carr going to talk a little bit about financial caregiving on You and Your Doctor show.
Hi, I'm Deanna Barron, RN, with All County Healthcare. You know how I know that I've done a good job? We say goodbye. After you understand the medications you take, once you know that gaining 2 pounds in a day means you should call the doctor, when your wound is healed, when you can use your nebulizer all by yourself, when the goals that you and your All County Healthcare team of nurses, therapists, and aides established are met. We say goodbye. Very nice to meet you, and I hope I never see you again. And I mean that in the nicest way possible.
All County Healthcare, Inc. is locally owned and operated, serving the Tri-County area, Palm Beach, Dade, and Broward counties for the last 25 years. The practice of medicine is changing dramatically. All County Healthcare, Inc. still does it the old-fashioned way, where our nurses and healthcare professionals come into your home to service your medical needs, providing you the fastest and best care possible. For more information, call 954-717-7027. And remember, Medicare Home Care is covered by Part A of Medicare with no out-of-pocket cost to you. It's your decision, and only your decision, on what healthcare agency you use. Call today. All County Home Health Care, Inc. at 954-717-7027. License 200999096. You are listening to You and Your Doctor, Living Longer and Healthier, an informative show that helps you find answers to questions you always wanted to ask, but did not have that somebody that could make a difference in your life. Call into the show if you have a question at 888-565-1470, and we will put you on the air to inform all our listeners. Now, back to our show.
Welcome back to the You and Your Doctor show. Once again, we have a great guest with us, Dr. Nick Carr, and also in studio, Lou Biasi, so from All County Healthcare. I'm going to thank All County Healthcare to start out. Thanks for sponsoring the show. Again, it's All County Healthcare Incorporated, a Medicare certified agency. It's a home healthcare agency. Lou, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach, right?
That's correct. Tri-County area.
Wow, that's fantastic. 954-717-7027. And if you have any questions, you can ask Maddie. She'll be happy to answer the questions at that number, 954-717-7027. And before we say anything else, I want to welcome Dr. Nick Carr. He's a financial caregiver. He's got a PhD in personal finance from Kansas State University, so he's a wildcat. Dr. Carr, how you doing tonight?
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I know that mascot because FAU, our team over here in Boca Raton, we played there years ago, and they smoked us.
Hey, Doc, you say you're a financial caregiver. Could you explain what that means?
Actually, a financial advisor who happens to have his PhD in personal finance. So wear a couple different hats.
Oh, fantastic!
So you basically handle a lot of the so-called that private insurance, long-term care.
Well, yeah, and this month actually happens to be, as a nuance to me as well, National Caregivers Month, and Merrill Lynch, the company that I work with, has recently partnered with AgeWave, who's a researcher specifically in caregiving. And so the whole thought process behind Caregivers Month is to just shed some light on the topic and, provide some research that's recently been done.
Well, we've been in that business for 25 years. We started out as a private caregiver company in the Tri-County area. All county did. And we took, we've had over 2,000 or 3,000 home health aides, certified CNAs, and HHAs that work for us. And I'll tell you, you've got to give those people credit to take care of the elderly, the sick and the elderly.
Absolutely. 20 million Americans becoming caregivers each year. Those that care for, a family member or somebody that is in need for the services. And with the aging population, the baby boomers, we're coming into an unprecedented territory as far as the numbers. 75 million baby boomers. With the first wave turning 80 in the very near future, so it's becoming real. It's becoming a real thing, and 90% of those that are caregivers are also the financial caregivers, being that they coordinate and manage the finances for the loved ones. And this amounts to somewhere in the neighborhood of close to $200 billion annually. So it's
amazing.
There's a lot being pumped in.
He said billion, Lou, with a B.
I understand that, and it's going to become more and more every year as it goes by, because the average age, as he knows, is becoming 85 now, 86.
Exactly.
And the centurions are probably the largest segment of the population growing.
Exactly, and we're not prepared. Roughly 10% or so of those over the age of 65 do not have long-term care coverage. More than 2/3 of Americans, this is from the data from the survey that was just put out there by AgeWave, more than 2/3 of Americans think that family is going to step in and help, for their long-term care needs. And what we don't know is how many are truly underfunded. That is, how many can afford their caregiving without help, since they don't have long-term care. So that's a big reason there, where a good advisor comes in and can sort of help facilitate that dialogue and try to figure out what's needed.
We were just talking about that Sunday. I was just talking about that Sunday with a financial planner, and the funny part of it was, and these plans are getting more difficult to buy and more expensive and more costly. But the financial planner, a good financial planner like yourself, usually finds a way to make sure. And I always say to my clients, hey, make sure you have sufficient amount of money to take care of yourself before you form a life estate. Because a lot of these people now, they depend upon the state to take care of on Medicaid. Are you finding a lot of that to be true?
You got it, and you're 100% right. I mean, planning is really the best way to make sure you're prepared, which usually involves consulting a pro, some sort of expert. Got to look at the big picture. Got to figure out a roadmap. What does it look like? Where are my gaps? If there are gaps, maybe some sort of long-term care plan is needed. Oftentimes it's not, but it does take a solid understanding of your plan. And I'm still shocked every day with seeing those that have reached the levels that they have in their life, both personally and financially, that still don't really have a good solid understanding of that plan.
What age do you think they should start at, Doc?
As soon as possible. I don't think it's too early. I mean, I don't think this is one area where there's a rule of thumb. I mean, I think the old rule of thumb was, as you get into your 40s and 50s, certainly it's something to be looking at. But now the landscape of financial planning has changed, especially goals-based planning, which is, the thought of aligning goals and needs to your plan, and there's no timetable for that, and it's almost a checklist of your life and what you need to be looking at. So obviously there's advantage and disadvantage of starting too early, too late. The biggest disadvantage of starting too early is it puts some other life priorities on hold that may be more of a priority, things like saving for children's college or your own retirement. The big disadvantage of waiting is cost. The longer you wait, the more expensive it becomes, and the less secure your future is. So I think having a balance, really assessing what your priorities are, getting those priorities taken care of, and then hopefully, with the thought of this month being Caregivers Month, it just becomes a priority.
You know what I used to say to all my caregivers? Because, they don't make much money, Doc, as you can tell. But you got that new 40-hour rule with the caregivers, but the factor is, they're paid anywhere between $10 to $13 an hour as a CNA home health aide. So, and they're usually working 2 or 3 jobs. I always say to them, listen, put 10% of your salary away to start off with. At least 10%. That was the old rule of thumb when I grew up. They always said put 10% of your salary away. Now, once they start doing that, they accumulate some money and they can start buying a house or something. But it's never too late. No. And what would you say your average client's net worth, average income would be before you would even talk to them?
Well, you mean in general, or for when they should start considering long-term care? In other words, what does our client demographic look like, or when does the need for caregiving and the need for planning for long-term care start to make sense?
Well, I'm talking about, for instance, they need some financial planning at a certain age. A lot of them don't know how to manage their funds or their et cetera, but they need some. You got a husband and wife working now today, and I was listening to TV yesterday. They said that they're talking about a tax reduction for a couple that's making $1.3 million or $1.4 million a year. That's a lot of money for a couple. Sure. Or the individual's making $1 million a year. But let's say the average husband and wife is working today and they're making a couple $100,000 a year, $150,000 a year. They could even use some financial planning, couldn't they?
Of course, sooner the better. There should be no limit on, as far as wealth goes, as far as when you should start or how you should start. There's plenty of ways to go about it. In fact, one of the things we did was actually, I started a foundation that helps promote financial literacy and helps promote financial education and awareness, just because there are gaps, and sometimes people do think they have to have a certain amount of money or a certain amount of wealth before consulting a planner. And, really the answer should be, as early and as soon as possible. And, the earlier you start, the more success you're going to have to get that plan in place.
So you would advise those seniors out there to talk to their grandchildren or their children, say, listen,
absolutely.
Do you have a financial planner? Maybe some of our seniors that are listening tonight can advise their children, because they went through it. They're going through it now, and they're at a certain age where a lot of them they're ill-prepared because they don't have a caregiver, and they're left alone. They really don't know what to do or how to do it. So absolutely, and most advisors out there, certainly my colleagues and our team, they embrace that. I mean, we want to work with future generations. If we don't, statistically, if our average client here in South Florida is of retired age, guess what? In 20 years, we're not going to have much of a practice. So I think it makes a lot of sense for advisors and planners to work with future generations, work with their current clients who maybe are retired, but work with their kids, their grandkids, and helping them develop their plan and their strategy, for both the advisor's benefit and for the family's benefit. And if you're not doing that as a service, I think then it's something that's being missed. Yeah, what happens with us, we see, what happens? Now all of a sudden mom and dad need to get some kind of caregiving where they need 24-hour long-term care, or they need 4 hours a day help with their ADLs. Now the kid says, wait a minute, they don't have any insurance. How do I pay for this? Where do I go? The state, the Social Security pay for it. Does Medicare pay for it? Does Humana pay for it? Well, they'd have no idea where to get care for basically the what I call treating for the ADLs, for the activity for daily living. They don't understand that's not a clinical need, and that's paid for either through a long-term care policy or you better have some money in the bank. Now, these kids say, well, how do I get that insurance?
Exactly, and that's where the plan comes in, starting early or at least starting at some point. It's never too late. But it's typically never too early, at least to plan, to know it's there. It doesn't need to be a front burner topic, but it should at least be on the stove. And, I think that's the message around long-term care. And look, we talked about the billions that's getting pumped in. As you mentioned, $40,000 to $50,000 a year for full-time at-home health aid. Nursing home costs can vary, obviously, depending on need and location, but, a few thousand a month to easily over $10,000 a month. So these are costs that need to be factored in, either if the individual or family is going to self-fund and save, or if they're going to leverage the benefit of an insurance provider in a long-term care policy. But, cost is a big one. It's not something you want to back into. That's not something that you want to get caught off guard with.
Dr. Carr, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and on the other side, I want to talk to you a little bit about the cost of caregiving on the You and Your Doctor show.
All County Healthcare, Inc. is locally owned and operated, serving the Tri-County area, Palm Beach, Dade, and Broward counties for the last 25 years. The practice of medicine is changing dramatically. All County Healthcare, Inc. still does it the old-fashioned way, where our nurses and healthcare professionals come into your home to service your medical needs, providing you the fastest and best care possible. For more information, call 954-717-7027. And remember, Medicare Home Care is covered by Part A of Medicare with no out-of-pocket cost to you. It's your decision, and only your decision, on what healthcare agency you use. Call today. All County Home Health Care, Inc. at 954-717-7027. License 200999096.
Hi, my name is Deanna Barron. I'm an RN with All County Health Care. I used to work for this huge corporate-owned home health agency, and I was always worried that they wouldn't let me make enough nursing visits to be sure that your wound was fully healed, or that you were completely comfortable checking your husband's blood sugar level and giving him the correct dose of insulin, or that your mom's lingering cough was the end of her bronchitis, not the beginning of a new episode. The owner of All County Healthcare always says, give the patient what they need, and he means it. At All County Healthcare, I see my patients until their goals are met, and I never worry. I hope you never need a nurse to come to your home, but if you do, tell your doctor, I want All County Health Care.
You are listening to You and Your Doctor, Living Longer and Healthier, an informative show that helps you find answers to questions you always wanted to ask, but did not have that somebody that could make a difference in your life. Call into the show if you have a question at 888-565-1470, and we will put you on the air to inform all our listeners. Now, back to our show.
And we're back with Dr. Carr, Nick Carr. He has 17 years of financial services experience. He has a PhD in personal finance. Dr. Carr, we've kind of talked a lot about caregiving, financial caregiving so far, but what can you share with us some of the main costs of caregiving that you've heard from your clients in doing this? I know you work a lot on their personal goals, and you're an expert in psychology and behavior, so I want to hear a little bit about what these caregivers are facing cost-wise. And I don't know if we lost Dr. Carr, but
the level of
there
care.
He is.
Oh.
Hear you loud and clear. You're good.
Okay, yeah, the costs are going to vary depending on level of care, location, that sort of thing. So, for example, the first thing that generally individuals and families consider is this going to be an in-home situation where we're going to hire a full-time aide because we want mom, dad, whomever to remain in the home, or do we want to relocate them to a nursing home facility or an assisted care facility? So that's sort of the first decision. And in-home, again, depending on the level of care, is it round the clock, is it full-time, and what's the definition of full-time, can usually start in the $40,000 to $50,000 range, and that's what this study sort of showed us as well. That's for that full-time at-home health aide. Round the clocks can obviously be a little bit more expensive than that. Nursing home facilities, depending on the level of care, is it full care? Is it partial care? Is it memory? What's the demographic? That plays a role as well. Can see anywhere from a few $1,000s a month to more than $10,000 a month, depending on, again, the need of care. Location tends to matter as well. Areas where cost of living tends to be more expensive, we intuitively also see the cost of care go up as well.
I see. And that study you're talking about, you told us before, it's a Merrill Lynch study in partnership with AgeWave, and it's a great release. I was looking at it today. I know you quoted a whole bunch of statistics from it, including the U.S. Spends almost $200 billion per year on adult care. So and I just wanted to mention for the listeners, Dr. Carr's foundation is a Southwest Florida Financial Literacy Foundation that he was talking about before, so definitely look that up as well. Lou, did you have another question?
Yeah, Dr. Carr, let me ask you a question. If you were to advise a couple coming in now, they're coming, they're 40, 45 years of age, and they're saying, I need some of the financial planning, what are some of the tools you would use to help them say, listen, at a certain age, you're going to probably need some kind of long-term care assistance? What are some of the tools you would recommend them to purchase or to prepare for their financial planning? And, they probably don't have all the knowledge about this thing. I know there's life insurance policies now that are acting that some of it can be used for long-term care. There's long-term care policies out there. And as you know, Doc, as you're younger, that's when it's more cost-effective to buy it when you're younger. Now, and how long can I buy? Can I buy a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, a lifetime benefit? What type of benefits are there out there for the person?
Absolutely, and what we adhere to and what Merrill Lynch adheres to is what's called a goals-based wealth management approach. So what we want to do is we want to make individuals and families aware of some of the things that are out there, some of the possible landmines as it relates to their financial plan, but also really try to get a good understanding of what their current goals and philosophies are. And, caregiving, long-term care should be a priority. It's usually for somebody in their 40s and 50s, as you can imagine, not the priority. There's usually 2 or 3 things at least that would come ahead of the line before that. So I think to your question, for families in their 40s and 50s, the biggest thing is just making it a priority, not necessarily making it a front burner item, but put it on the stove. And one of the advantages of exploring long-term care for families in the 40s and 50s, as you mentioned, you're 100% right, is the cost. The big savings, while they're still presumably younger and healthy, is dramatically less than as they approach retirement or are even in retirement. So I think at that point, and the whole point of goals-based wealth management is saying, okay, how do I envision retirement? How do I envision growing older? And of course, what the solution to that, the tool, the solution to how do I envision growing older and what would I envision my life being like in my 70s and 80s may mean exploring different solutions, including, long-term care or self-funding and making sure that somebody has enough.
Me being in the business 25 years or better, close to 30, I've seen it come all down the road, and it's a funny thing. I advise young people, and I say to them, when do you know you're going to get sick? When do you know you're going to be in an accident? Do you know tomorrow? I mean, I've had
Right.
35-year-old guys in a serious car accident that need care for the rest of their lives. So there's really no age that you really know when and if you're going to get sick or you're going to get hurt in a car accident. So I think long-term care to me, and I might be wrong, but I think long-term care is probably just as important as buying life insurance, because that benefit goes to somebody when you die. But if I need long-term care, at least I don't have to burden my wife or somebody else work 3 jobs or 4 jobs while I'm home recuperating.
Oh, sure. I mean, I think, 10, 20 years ago, it was life, it was health, it was home, and the insurance planning discussion sort of ended there. And now you've got this fourth prong that comes in. Sometimes there's other prongs, but certainly the other big prong that comes into play here now is long-term care, because we've created some awareness around it. I think the next step is really figuring out, okay, what's this gonna cost us, and we know the stats in terms of generalities about how many families and individuals have purchased long-term care, but what we really don't know is, okay, well, how underfunded are we? And that's why having these discussions with your advisor is so important. Where are we?
Dr. Carr, I just went through this. I had a family member on my wife's side, and the family did a really great job, but I got to see kind of from a little bit afar this whole situation front to back. And I wanted to ask you, I was always wondering, I couldn't really ask the family member, is caregiving a tax write-off? And if not, how do caregivers get compensated? Is there anything out there to help them kind of navigate the tough time, or is it something that it's just best to talk to someone like you? And your website, I got to tell you, your website is fantastic, flmoneymap.com. Wow, so many links, so much information. It's fantastic. But I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, and it's a great question. Obviously, first and foremost, as any advisor would say, is consult with their own CPA to see what their own situation looks like and what they might qualify for. Typically, there are some deductions, out-of-pocket expenses and things like that can contribute to caregiving. It can sometimes be tax deductible. If somebody makes a home improvement to make way for mom and dad, ramps, things like that. Certainly, medication. Most of the expenses are going to sort of filter down to what any individual would be able to deduct on their own personal return. So it's got to be above the 7.5% of their AGI. And again, every situation is different, but usually there are some ways that family members or caregivers can save if they are helping out a family or a loved one. Also, if they're a named trustee in a document, sometimes the document spells out some language in there about their fiduciary responsibility and some compensation that could be deemed reasonable for caregiving and trust services and things like that. So those individuals would want to pour over that document. But surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly at all, the caregivers, their quote unquote compensation comes from feeling the reward of knowing that they were doing something good for someone that they loved. And I guess the study showed us that over 60% that did the caregiving said that the greatest benefit was feeling like they had just done the right thing. So ultimately, it comes down to that too.
Doc, we got about a minute left. Let me thank you for coming on. You're very, very knowledgeable. And if you ever get to the South Florida area, if you ever get down where we live around here, Boca Raton or Delray Beach or Fort Lauderdale, I would love to give you a call, and we'd love to have lunch and discuss this further.
Absolutely, we're there all the time.
Dr. Carr, how can people get in touch with you?
Go ahead and just check out, our Merrill Lynch website, Legates Carr at Merrill Lynch. You can go ahead and punch that in, Legates Carr at ML, and that's our full-time practice website. And we'd love to have the conversations with you if any of this stuff pertains to you.
Thank you, sir.
And Doc, we think you're going to get a lot of response. And give me a call when you get down this area.
Will do. Thanks a lot, guys.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us share with you a longer and healthier lifestyle.
If you have a doctor or are a doctor and wish to be on the show, call AMP2TV at 866-244-5422, and we will put you on the air as soon as possible. Tune in next week for more information on living longer and having a healthier life.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.